tarot cards are often the first step and basis for a seeker of metaphysical knowledge, like you, to discover your forever path. That could be astrology, numerology, healing arts, or any other spiritual interest you discover along the way. Elaine Ireland is not only a teacher of tarot, she is a mentor who supports you and will be there for you. Visit www.ElaineIrelandTarotMaster.com now and discover how Elaine's mentoring, tarot card and psychic readings, tarot card classes, and more help you to grow into the true being you are meant to be. Welcome to Conversations with the Ancients, where you're about to discover a whole different world than the one that, up until now, you've believed you're familiar with. World-Renowned Metaphysicist, practicing psychic and tarot teacher Elaine Ireland invites you on a journey where you'll hear voices from the past, interviews with some of the greatest metaphysicians you've never heard of, because in their time, they needed to move with stealth. You'll also meet today's spirit mediums, healers, and others who will show you a side of the paranormal you've never seen before. Be sure you visit our website at conversationswiththeancients.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, hear the words of metaphysicians who blazed the trail. You're not in jail, thanks to them.
This is Olivia Monica.
Hello.
Confession here. Olivia and I have known each other since really over 20 years. I met her through her mom, Joyce, that I have known as many years plus. And, of course, over the last couple of years, gotten to know her better because of the work that she does with tarot. So how did you get started with tarot? Family, psychic ability, DNA? I know the answer to that, but tell the public.
All of the above. But so I started playing. I started playing tarot with
Fun cards, even fun cards, baby cards, kid cards. Yeah.
baby cards. Yeah. But my mom was raised Catholic and another high demand religion. But, she saw me playing with the cards and I was drawing pictures on them and talking about them. I was 9 and making stories. And she was like, you're doing something. Let's get you some cards. And she did. She got me my first deck. And, at that time, I didn't have any idea that both my mom and my grandmother, among many other people in my family, we have psychic abilities. But when you're born with it, it's not something that you think is different than the rest of the world. You think everybody has that. And my brother and I had a real connection, and my mother and I, my grandmother and I, we could dream, all of us, the same dreams. We could interact in the dream world. We would wake up and talk about the same dream that we had together, a collective dream. We did that. And, that was not unusual for us. It was kind of like, it didn't happen all the time. It wasn't something that every night this happened. So we knew that was a little bit unusual. I knew that my connection with my brother was a little bit unusual, but I didn't think of myself as psychic or clairvoyant. I didn't even have that vocabulary. But I did have cards. And my mom, all my life, from as young as 9, 12, 14, as old as in my 40s, when I would come to her and ask her if I had a problem about something, and I needed my mother's advice, if it was a big deal, she would say, we need to look at your cards. Let's look at your cards. Have you looked at your cards? And
you need cards. Yeah.
And not just for me. She wasn't just saying you need to look at you or we need to look at you. She was like, you need to be reading for other people because that will get you out of yourself. Because I was very, and still am, it doesn't seem that way because I've learned, but I'm very introverted. And she was constantly saying, you need to read. You need to be reading for people. And so I would read for my friends and for my family. And that's how that started. I remember a time when my little brother, we were real little. I think I was only about 6 or 7, and my brother was missing. He was about 6 or 7. And they kept saying, we know you know where he is because you have this connection. Well, I couldn't do it. I couldn't just bring it. But with the tarot, I've learned it's a tool that can bring it anytime that you need it. You don't have to worry about how am I going to call on this energy. You just have it at your fingertips. And then as I learned that, then I learned that you don't have to have them at your fingertips because it's a tool. It's a tool to help. And, but I still use them because it's a very important tool and it adds so much rich detail to me, the tarot is a book that tells every story that's ever been told and every story that ever will be told. And it's right there in the cards. And all we have to do is have a desire and a need. And to me, love, to me, it's all about love. That's why I don't think I'm ever going to put down my cards. A lot of people will and do. But I'm really I was always into fairy tales, always into the stories of the Bible, always into, human beings and people. So, it's just really important to me to hear people's stories and to know. And also as being an introvert, one of the things I did is now I know what it's called. It's called selective mutism. One of the things I did when I was a child was I had a big family, 5 kids, 2 grown-ups, all a bunch of kids. We ran around and camped. We did all kinds of stuff. I had a wonderful family life. And, what was I going to say? What was I talking about? Oh, but at school, I didn't talk. I didn't talk unless I had to speak, unless the teacher asked me a question and I had to answer it. Because I was busy watching and looking and learning. And I learned a lot.
How did you learn that it was selective mutism?
I just learned that recently. My sister, Karen. Yeah, I didn't even know there was such a thing. My sister was like, you look, what?
I didn't either.
Yeah.
Yeah, like selective hearing. We used to accuse my grandmother of having selective hearing.
Yes.
So it's kind of like that. Okay.
It's the other way around. So I feel like that added a lot too, because, anyway, where are we? I don't know what we're talking. I got lost in translation.
Take a deep breath. Since you're not sure where you were, I want to go back. I want to back up. You braided some really important things together. You braided religion, but skipped over it. Healthy family life, skipped over it. And there was a third thing there that now I can't remember. But I haven't had anybody do that. But what I wanted to ask you, because I know your faith is important to you, and I'm not putting a name on your faith, but I know faith is important to you. Have you done serious, whatever your Bible is, whatever your faith is, have you done serious studies with it separate from your spiritual growth and psychic ability?
Absolutely. Yes. Another thing that my family was big on was, because of my high demand religion, we were real, what's the word? We went out, we proselytized, right?
Okay.
So, one of the things that we did as a habit was, if a friend invites you to church, go with them and invite them to church. And, if you have a friend, invite them to church, invite everybody to church. And if they invite you to church, go to church. So even as a small child, I went to different churches, and, I know that I went to a Catholic daycare. I went to a Baptist daycare, a Lutheran. When I went to the Lutheran daycare, again, I was little. I said Luther. I thought Lutheran was the same as Lucifer. I was really worried. And then when they brought out the Bible, I was like, are they tricking me? But then that's just a little kid mentality. But so we really were very much, open. And my family was also really big on, we had an entire encyclopedia. My dad sold encyclopedias. We were always, we didn't have, Google. But we did, because I would call the Houston Public Library. I had them, I had that number memorized. If I didn't know it and somebody around me didn't know it, I knew I could call the librarian. And if the librarian didn't know it, she would find out for me. So knowledge, and knowledge of religion, knowledge of the Bible. I took seminary, within my church. And then when I left home at 17, I got serious about studying Presbyterian because my husband was a Presbyterian. Later, after we divorced, I studied different sects of Buddhism and became very, and also, Unitarian Universalist Church. So I've done a lot of study on my own. None of it is, the seminary was something that was, I can't think of what it's called when you study and you go to school and you study and then they're self-taught. So most of it was self-taught. Most of it was going out and learning from different religions. And I now consider in Hinduism, I studied Hinduism because I love the blue gods. Oh, they're so amazing. And of course, yes.
Ones that they think are actually visitors from other universes and planets. That's Hinduism. It has some interesting backstory to it. Anyway,
that's amazing. So now I don't really have a name for my spirituality, except that I am a believer. I do believe. I'll believe your side of the story, even if my side of the story doesn't match. I believe it all. It's all there. It's just your reality is just as valid as my reality.
I agree with you.
I believe that love helps us share love and time. Time and space. We're here to share our realities. We're here to I believe I was born to serve. All the jobs I've ever had are service jobs. I prayed for wisdom. Even as a small child, my dad told me about King Solomon. And he told me, that King Solomon would pray for wisdom. That's what. So I would pray for the wisdom of King Solomon up until I was in my teen years. And then I thought, you know what? I think I'm asking for trouble. I think when I read his prayer, things happen. But
you know what they say, be careful what you pray for. You may get it.
But I can
down the path. Yeah.
I continue to study and learn, but I would say that my biggest spiritual awakening happened during the birth of my second daughter. And I believe that we're all awakening spiritually all the time.
I do too. Every day.
Yes.
Whether we think it's intentional or not, we are.
Exactly. Yes. Because we are. We are spiritual beings experiencing a physical body.
Right.
And we connect spiritually each time we connect with another person. Not only physically. And it affects us. It affects us physiologically whenever we just are in the same room with somebody else. And the people who can see energy can see a lot of that connection, but I don't think any of us sees the whole thing. It's so, anyway.
It can be really complicated.
Yes.
It can be complicated. No doubt about it.
Very much. But so I'm having my second daughter. I'm in labor with my second daughter. I was in labor for a very long time. The midwives were there for over 20 hours and I was exhausted, and I had been up for 2 days, and we were discussing transport to the hospital because the baby was having decels, which means her heart rate was going down. And so, but the birth was imminent. So it was like, if I stand up, I stood up we were talking about it, and then the baby's born. She had the cord wrapped around her neck twice. The midwife unwrapped the cord. Her face was blue, the baby. And she rubbed her down, got her going, got her breathing. She never cried. She put her on my chest, and I saw her. And now let me back up. That was the miracle. That was the other side. But during the birth, I had gotten so tired. I was looking at this beautiful, it was a tallow. What what's the name of that tree? Some kind of tree that has a lot of tallow that people don't like. It has these little leaves that kind of look like they sparkle in the sun, or they shimmer. Anyway, that was outside my window, and all these leaves got little faces, and they started talking to me and telling me, "You're fine. You're going to be fine. You're going to have this baby. It's going to be fine. You're okay." And for many years, I thought that was a hallucination. And now I know that tree was telling me. That tree knew. That tree, it was not a hallucination. That was a message.
Were you in Colorado?
No, I was in Baytown, Texas. Chinaberry. It was a Chinaberry tree.
Oh, you're going with the Chinaberry. Okay. I was going with the ones that make a sound when they're.
Oh, yeah.
And they're golden. Their leaves are golden. Yeah. So the tree knew. The tree was. I see you as an earth mother, so that doesn't surprise me at all. That a tree would have that kind of support and encouragement for you. I think that's great.
And before that, I mean, my older daughter was in the room, and she kept saying, "The baby's flying around the room." And we thought, what a funny kid. She's so funny. That's funny little 18. And then I got to a point during the birth that I really feel like, when I thought back on it, it really felt a whole lot like a journey to the other side to get my baby. She almost didn't make it. I had to talk her into coming. I bled out. I was transported to the hospital. I stopped bleeding. I was fine. Obviously, I mean, I'm here. But I think the reason I bled out, it was a long birth physically, but spiritually, I went to the other side to get her.
You know, you're not the first time I've heard that from, actually, I've heard that from men who have participated in the birth, the observation of the birth of their child. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard mothers say, not the same words, but I had to go get the baby. I had to go to a place to get the baby. And when they did it, they thought they were hallucinating. But later, there was some communication. With one lady, it was when she was changing the diaper with her son. He was just weeks old. And they were playing and cooing. And, you know, she could have sworn that was the first time he smiled, you know, that kind of thing. And all of a sudden he got serious and real quiet. And she said bubbles were coming out of his mouth, and his mouth moved with something like, I may be paraphrasing here, like, "See, I told you I'd make it." And then he went back to being a baby.
Yeah. With
the silly face, you know? So I really think some of you gals have to go get your babies. I think you do. They kind of chicken out.
She's told me that as an adult. She said, we've discussed it. Mm-hmm. During that time also, I was praying to my Heavenly Father during the birth. And at one point I just said, why? Why am I praying to him? Why am I not praying to my mother, my Heavenly Mother, my God, the Goddess? And it was because I'd never at that point had any idea that there was even people that still pray to the Goddess. I was such a staunch Mormon, and then Presbyterian, and then I was still living in the Bible Belt Christian. So that was my big spiritual awakening, is I don't have to pray to the Father, especially, you know, when the mother is here. She's here.
You look at it as it's all one big spirit, like so many people in the metaphysical, spiritual, and there's a difference there, folks. Metaphysical is really the study of, but it's also an energy that exists. But a lot of us believe that, I don't care whether it's, well, Buddhist isn't a religion to begin with, it's a way of life, but Hinduism, you know, pick a tribe. There are 12 tribes out there. They scattered, go out and spread my word kind of thing. It's all one energy. I think one of the neatest things I saw years and years and years ago, and I don't remember what magazine it was something like the New Yorker, something like that. And it was Jesus and Buddha and a number, like 6 or 7 different entities in present form, as we would see them in statues and such. And since nobody knows what God looks like, of course, Jesus is used. Let's set him up there. He represents. But all of them were sitting on a porch and they all had an appropriate something to drink. We don't know whether it was alcoholic or not. Who cares? It was something to drink. And there was food on a table and just enough of the food to see that it related to what they believed in. Right. And one word, but it looked like they were all saying it. When will they? And they were looking down on earth. So it was a porch in the sky kind of thing, kind of hanging out. And when will they know that we're all one and the same? When will they realize we are all one and the same? And I thought, now that's powerful. And wherever it was, I know it was a magazine. It wasn't on the cover, but it wasn't very far into the cover. And then that whole magazine had interviews with different religions and people of the time that were known. In fact, I think Billy Graham was even in there. He was in that time frame. And I remember ripping out that page and some of the articles, but that cartoon, which really wasn't a cartoon, it was a black and white sketchy artist thing.
Uh-huh.
And I thought that is just too powerful to throw away. And I have it in my file cabinet, one of my files somewhere. For all these years, I have intended to frame it. And I've been carrying it around for probably 30, 40 years now. You know, when am I going to frame it? Right. I'd hang it up in my office if I had fun. But to me, that's so real. But you've gone one step further in combining and acknowledging how important where you live, family, being open-minded about other people's belief systems. And I was just telling somebody yesterday, a friend of mine, she's not into organized religion and she's not going there. And she was talking about dating, and some guy had asked her, well, what about church? Would you go to church with me? And her answer was basically no. I don't believe in organized religion. I'm a spiritualist. I'm a psychic. I'm a healer. And no. So that's it. When we discussed it, I said, like you did, if somebody invites you to go to church, go. But my line is, I will honor you in your belief system, but the first time you start cramming it down my throat, I'm done. Yes. And she said, well, you go to church. And I said, I go to a church I choose to go to. And it's one of the few that accepts me for who I am. In fact, I've even done a clearing for the church. And I was shocked when our minister asked me to do it. But there's so many religions in the church that I attend. And we jokingly, without disrespect, so I don't want to hear about it, folks, because it's very real to the people who have experienced these events, recovering Catholic, recovering Baptist, recovering whatever, because they lived a life, usually in their youth, where they weren't accepted, and yet they were held, because if we let you go, you're going to go to hell. At least if you come to this church, you're going to be okay. But if you're in this church, you have to believe like we do. And you have to accept all of our criticism, all of our whatever, but you can't go. So when they got away from an organized particular church and tried to find another church to go to, it was they had to get over the fear of even entering another door's church.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the word recovering is there. But they're in a church and their faith is real. And yes, it's an independent church that I choose to go to. But it's the second church in all of my life where I have been accepted for who I am. So it's hard to go to a traditional organized church when you're in this field. And yet some of us can quote scripture. We can argue the Bible with you with a learned intelligence about religion, about the Bible, regardless of what religion it happens, what pew it has to be sitting in when you get into the church. But you've gone so much further with an open mind and an open heart. And that's part of what I think makes you such a good server, as you said, to your public, to your clients, and to your family and friends, because you're there. I've seen that. You've been available to people that need you, even total strangers. So when did you start reading for the public or participating with the public? Let's put it that way.
Well, let's see. In and out. When I was a teenager, I really kind of started reading more outside the family. But it wasn't until I was probably in my mid to late 30s before I just started like reading for, I would go sit in parks with a sign. I'd go to the bar with a sign, or just a tablecloth. Put your tablecloth down, get your cards out. This was before Venmo, so like, and Cash App and those things. So, people would go to the cash machine. So yeah, I would say mid 35 plus is when I really started just putting myself out there on purpose. And the reason I did it was because I was going through some difficult times, and it's never for the money. It's even though I did start charging, it was never for the money. Although that was nice. It was because I do believe that I'm here to serve. I've believed that all of my life, all of my jobs that I've ever had. I started as a newspaper boy. Went into shoe sales. You know, I've worked retail a lot of customer service, but it's because and I can't say I'm the person that says I love all people, but I do. But I believe I'm here to make connections. I believe I'm here to there's just so much going on in the world. I think that we're here to serve one another. It's just always been so important to me. I don't know where I got that. Probably from my mother and my grandmother. I do know where I got that. They're the same way.
I never met your grandmother, but your mother is definitely
Absolutely.
service.
Very
Absolutely.
community oriented. I mean, if we're not volunteering somewhere in the community, then we're doing something with our neighbors or something in the community. If we're not doing it on paper, we're still doing it. Because what is life without community? I mean, like, even as an introvert, even as someone who I love spending time by myself, I can spend hours and hours and hours and days. I could spend weeks by myself and not feel lonely. But that's not why I'm here. I'm not here to be alone. I'm here to serve. And so I do take my time. I do spend time with myself, and I do that so that I can give more to my community. I do have to, I call it my cloak, or sometimes I call it, my glamour. Sometimes I call it my glamour. I do have to, put on my cloak to go out into the public, because I do feel very, introverted. Very protective of myself. It's been many years. I did not discuss religion with people. We would talk about religion, but we weren't allowed to just, I didn't talk about how I felt so much. That was personal. My religion was personal to me. Now I feel like if you want to know, I'll tell you, but you don't have to believe what I believe, because I believe all of it. And that's kind of hard to swallow.
I always find it interesting when we're doing fairs, particularly when we're doing fairs, not so much personal one-on-ones. I used to do all of those in person. Now I do, I'd say 95% on the phone, partially because I'm out of the country, and it's not so easy for people to get here. But at the same time, they want to read it. I tried doing them on Zoom, and the up and down just doesn't work for my head, for my brain. So I do phone readings. But when people would lean over on the table, and they nearly always did, they'd lean over very quietly, say, "Do you believe in Jesus?" Or "Do you believe in God?" And they're real soft. And I would lean back and say, "Yes, I do. One or the other, or both." "Oh, good.
It's
Then why do you
important.
do this?" Well, and then it was usually, "Then why do you do this?" And I'd say, "Well, if you'll let me explain the tarot deck, you'll understand why. Because it's a book of knowledge. And I prefer the Rider-Waite deck. And it's full of Jewish and Christian and, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of years worth of history in the tarot deck. in that particular deck particularly. And I tell people, when people would come to learn the tarot, it was, why do you use such a hard deck? Because it's hard, because it has so much. If you don't want to read the tarot deck for the rest of your life, fine. But if you learn the history, if you learn the deck itself, it has everything. Astrology, new astrology, which a lot, and numerology, which a lot was removed from the Bible. We know that. Mm-hmm. And other aspects, color, weather. I mean, so much in the tarot deck.
Yes, weather, timing, dates. Yeah, it's all there.
Everything. It's all there. It depends on how you ask the questions or how the person presents what they need to know. But if you can read the Rider-Waite deck, you can read a piece of paper that says the 4 cups on it, because you can pull up that image.
100%.
And you can use it. Yeah, the Swedish deck is nothing but a white background with black stick figures and an occasional red rose on it. That's pretty lean. But if you know how to read the deck, and it's old. It's an old deck. If you can remember up here, what else? And you can also listen to the cards, which to me, yes, we read the deck, but we listen with psychic ability. And I've done it for so long, and so have you, that when I'm having a conversation with people, I see cards. And somebody told me a long time ago, a lady that became a friend over time, she said, most of you gals, she's so cute, most of you gals, we're getting a free reading every time we have a conversation. She said, I know that. I wonder if anybody else does. And that's true. When we're just having a friendly conversation, there's no telling what's coming out of our mouth. And half the time we don't hear it. We just don't hear it. And then later somebody will say, well, you told me when we talked about, didn't, okay.
And they'll say something really profound. And it's like, I said that? I think Spirit said that.
Yeah, not me. Spirit.
I'm glad you heard it.
I would probably have kicked your butt, but if Spirit gave you some love, okay. Ever. But I love that you have such a broad, and I always have, when sometimes we don't know when people are observing and supporting us. We don't know that. We don't see them very often. I knew what was going on in your life when she wanted to share something with your mom. She's not always been a blabby person. Don't go fuss at her. If I ask about you or your partner, how y'all are doing, whatever, she was as honest, was a little something. If she just gave me a sentence or two, then I didn't ask anything else, because I knew that's all that she was going to share. Mm-hmm. But you can, I got to watch you grow from a distance. And then I knew your reputation as you grew that in the community. So it's been, your whole family is psychic. I don't know why they're not. Chris, all of them. I don't know why they're not setting up tables.
Oh, Chris. Oh, man. Chris.
Oh,
he doesn't know. He won't admit it to himself, because he's so, because he's very, very, very Christian, and it concerns him. But it doesn't concern him, because some things he sees and he doesn't realize that that's things that other people don't see. Like, he doesn't understand that everybody doesn't see all of that. I don't know how to describe it. But
one of the things that
see entities. Yeah.
Well, and one of the things that people don't know about a lot of us on purpose is that there is a 9 out of 10. There is usually a religious upbringing of some sort. It may not have been our whole life, but are up to a certain life when they got old enough to say, I'm not going to church. I'm tired of Bible school. And then they usually as a teenager, sometimes earlier. People don't realize how involved so many of us have been in organized religion. And sometimes it's changed.
Yeah.
I mean, our participation. I have a reader that I'm going to be having a conversation with next month sometime. She left a very strong organized religion, and now she's been a devoted Buddhist for many, many, many years. Would she go back? I'm going to ask her that, but I can give you the answer. But she's found where she belongs. And she made the comment that she felt like she refound her home. So, but when I look around the room, especially at a psychic fair, I used to be able to say I know everybody, but we've gotten to be such a large community. I don't, but I do know the oldsters, the ancients, which is what this is all about. This particular podcast is intended to be a reminder to people that are coming up in the field, or even some of the people already in the field that have been there for a long time, whose shoulders they stand on.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
as the public comes in, this is why these people are good at what they do. They've been doing it for this long. And there'll be a category of newbies, serious people who are learning, then who are people who are established like you are, then the ancients who've been doing it a long time, and then the living and non-breathing legends that we'll talk about. And some of those people will be in both. They'll be in legends as well as established. So it's all, yeah. And eventually you get moved over. It's all there is to it. You just get moved over. But a lot of people do not realize what you gals and guys go through to get where you are. You said something very casually a while ago. You set up in a park. There was a time when the police would have arrested you or run you off. That took courage. You set up a table anywhere. In some cities, you have to have a certification or a permit, like in Vegas. Every time I did a show in Vegas, I had to pay for a permit through the producer. If I lived there, it would have been more expensive. You had to have a permit. Oh, yes. Honey, it's Vegas. They're going to get money no matter what you do. Come on. It's Nevada. But through a producer, if a producer did a fair, and I did like 6 or 7 fairs in Vegas over the years.
how exciting.
We had to pay $150 for a temporary permit. And all of the fairs I did were 4 days. They started on Friday night, ended on Monday. So you set up on Friday and worked Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And then you could stay if you had a following, of course, but you still made your money, because every time I go to an outside fair, I just say, Spirit, let me make my expenses. That's it. If I had to fly, if I have to drive, just make sure I make my expenses. But when you do an outside fair, you just kind of have to, you take a risk. And the very first fair I did there, it was an international gathering. I mean, people from literally all over the world. We were on 3 different mezzanines in the hotel that we were in. 3 mezzanines full of practitioners and vendors. Yeah. But we had to pay for a temporary, or the police could have walked in, and I saw police walk around. They made themselves very obvious. Right. And I had framed my little temporary license and just sat it up. It was just a little bit over a credit card size. And I sat it up next to my name, and they walked by every single table. They're going to check it. So for you and some others to advertise, especially 20, 30 years ago, the Austin American-Statesman wanted to put you in with the masseuse and the other girls, other professions. And they wouldn't let you advertise in the Sunday newspaper. You could advertise through Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, but not on Sunday. It was weird. But in a lot of the hotels, a lot of the venues in the Austin area, and I say area because there's Georgetown, Round Rock, all those areas that really didn't share the same sign space that they do now with Austin, they wouldn't rent. And of course, that's discrimination, but who's going to bring a lawsuit against them?
Right.
So, or they made it so exorbitantly high that the producers couldn't put up the money, which meant it came back to us, because the readers and the vendors basically split up the cost of the room. As it should. That's okay. But when anybody would do what some of you folks have done, your shoulders are the ones that the ones coming up are standing on. But then there was Miss Hipple, who went to jail 5 or 6 times. She was a retired nurse. She helped the police find people. But when she did it with the police request, she was breaking city laws. which are still in place. Because legally, if you can see, hear, feel, smell, whatever, things that other people around you cannot, you're crazy. And they can put you without permission of your family or your spouse for 7 days. And it's still that way. Now, I doubt seriously that the police will ever enter a room and start, maybe I shouldn't say that, knock on wood, arresting people and just taking us out and putting us in jail. I doubt seriously, because now it's such an accepted thing, and there are so many cross professions, therapists, psychiatrists, medical people, clinical people that are doing this work. You know, Karen Hutchins was a therapist for many, many years, and the therapy board, whatever, licensing board, gave her a hard time because she was mingling her 30-year career with shamanism. They said, you have to do one or the other. She said, here's my license. Now, she still counsels people, but she doesn't hang the same sign out that she used to. And she's not licensed to do counseling, but she does it under shamanism. But people that she counsels are getting the advantage of both.
Yeah.
Now, that's somebody's shoulders that somebody else is going to stand on.
Yes.
Just like she stands on Miss Hipple, who went to jail. Some of the guys that put her in jail were really ticked that they had been sent out to do that. And that's one of the reasons why I stopped working with police departments. I'll work with families in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I'll sleep on somebody's couch. Just get me there. I'll work with the family. But when a police unit or the sheriff's department, I'll work with the sheriff's department. I've worked with sheriff's behind the scenes for many, many years. A lot of the guys I used to work with are gone now, but well, we're old. You know, they retired a long time ago, or they didn't make it through COVID. But it's still experiences that younger ones may never have, because we've kind of hit the bar where we're telling people, be very careful who you work with. Miss Hipple created a circle of protection. And she had a number of us that she trusted. Some of us had been her students, or she'd mentored us. The police would call her and they'd tell her what they needed. And then she would call several of us, and she gave us a nickname, always a different name every time. So nobody could trace it back. And she would get that was before this. We had to handwrite or type it out or, whatever, and sign it by the nickname and get it to her. And then she would turn that over to the police. So if we all saw red trucks, okay, police, track down the red trucks, whatever the commonalities were. She had about 20 of us, but she didn't use all of us at the same time. So she would tell them, and sometimes she'd make the grid for them. She would break it down to, there was so many of this and so many looking through the windows and, whatever. And she just handed over to the police department. Well, we need names. Well, you're not getting names. Take it and use it or don't. Mm-hmm. So she figured out a way. And there's still people in town that do that work with police departments, but they don't share the people's names that they send out. So, and some of them are not even in the state of Texas. They're New York, California, Delaware, all kinds of places. That's what I want our community to realize, is that this is not a free ride. Other people paid.
It's not. You're right. Yeah.
And I don't think the public realizes that. And I don't think a lot of people that are participating in the fairs have a full-time career realize that people came before them that paid the price.
Absolutely.
And that developed
again and again. Yeah.
Yeah. Say that again, because I stepped on your word.
Again, they paid the price again and again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So years ago, I had worked with John Catchings and two other people looking for a young lady. We knew where she was, and all of us did. But other people were interfering, including the police, which was interesting because John Catchings could find, if they were dead, John Catchings could find them. Sometimes he didn't even have to leave his home. The spirits would come to him and say, find me.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'd even say, this is who killed me. And he was amazing. But I had worked with him and 2 other people. There were actually 5 of us on horseback in July. And I know, it's crazy, but that's what you do when you try to help. And we knew where she was, but the police kept saying, no, we need to go over there. It was a gravel pit kind of situation. And we knew exactly. And I finally got off the horse and I walked up to one of the detectives. I said, when you guys get out of the way, just get out of the way. Go home. Do something. Well, no. I said, then go get a cigarette. Just get out of the way. And John was ready to just leave. He was so disgusted. Well, when we saw them go to the tent and we converged and because we didn't all ride horses really well, we had people that were with us, walking with the horses and that sort of thing. And we could see. John said, let's get on horses because we can see over. Okay, made sense. We did. And within 15 minutes, he took off, we followed, and within 15 minutes, we circled this area, and 3 out of the 5, and I was not one of them, but 3 out of the 5 said, here, if you'll dig here. And I could hear the people that had put her there, but I could not hear her. And John had made the police department let us sign papers, or made us sign papers that you will not put our names in the newspaper. No pictures will be taken, no nothing.
Yeah.
Because we knew the people that had dealt with her were not nice people, even though one of them was already in jail. That was it. One of the only times I think John did that, because he wanted to be known as the best at finding, so he could be of service.
Exactly.
But we didn't, me especially. I told John, I said, if they can keep us out of the newspaper, I'm fine. And they caught people taking pictures from a distance, journalists especially.
Mm-hmm.
And one guy, I saw one police officer rip film out of one guy's camera. I mean, they really did try very hard to protect us. So, and after that, John said, I'll be the only one in the future working with the police department. We really can't trust the journalist. And he said, we can trust you. We saw you try to help, but I've got to trust my team. I've got to protect my team. So a lot of new people coming in aren't going to work. They're not even going to trust families. After one of those events with John, I got a phone call, female called, and I knew instantly she was police. I knew she was. It wasn't even a week. And she wanted to make an appointment. And I said, and how did you find me? And she said, well, actually, you did a reading for my mother years ago. And I thought, okay, that's the truth. I knew that was the truth. And I said, and how long have you been with the police force? That's what she did. And she said, about 10 years. And I said, your voice sounds much younger than that. And she said, well, I was one of the youngest that, she explained. And I said, you tell Captain so-and-so that I'm not biting this. I said, I'm not going to be another Miss Hipple. So no, you cannot get a reading, because they could not arrest me out there, but they could arrest me for doing a reading. And that was the last time I ever worked with the police department. Not the sheriff's department. I worked with them, but a lot of the newbies won't have those, or established won't have those experiences, which is sad, because I'm going back to your need to serve. That's a big way to serve, is to help to find closure.
Yeah.
For a family. It's big.
Yeah.
Whether they're alive or they're not, it's big. And fortunately, some of us have been in on a find that was alive. And that, it just breaks your heart to even find them alive because of what they've gone through to get to that point. So it's sad. I would gladly work with the police and families, but I will work with families. I don't have any problem with any family to do that. Just less and less. One of these days, police departments, and I think there are some police departments that keep this very quiet. It's like having handwriting analysis people. Oh, that was a big deal at one time. That was not a science. That was, now they know it is.
No,
But I know,
I've
yeah,
studied that too, handwriting, and I have about 10 books. Some of them are
love
very
handwriting
old.
analysis. Yeah, yeah. But I know that there are police departments out there that
Just
have
knowing a
chapters.
rule, you can tell a lot with handwriting,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. There was a guy in our group years and years ago. He would have been long gone by now because I was in my 30s and he was in his 60s. Very well known handwriting analysis. He worked for corporations. He would send them what he needed. But when somebody was applying for a job, I don't care what the job was,
Yeah.
where it was, they did a handwriting analysis of that person to see if they would, and so much so that if this person was being interviewed for Department A and B, they could tell by looking at the analysis which team he or she would fit better on. And that's getting pretty specific.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if they still do that or not. They did up until about 10 years ago. That was the last time I talked to anybody about it. But there are other ways of telling now the kind of tests they have people take and personality tests and stuff. But I don't think you can outdo a good handwriting or astrology chart for that matter. There are some companies that did astrology charts too, but they kept that real quiet.
Uh-huh.
See, folks, we're used. We're just not publicized.
Mm-hmm. Very much. When
I
was...
What? When you were what?
Well, I was later. During the pandemic, it was really the first time I really started doing a whole lot of readings over the phone. And I was doing a lot because I started working for an agency. And because that was all I did. I had been laid off because of the pandemic. So it was like, okay, now I'm going to do this to serve, and I'm going to make some money because I have to survive. But I can't remember doing things over the phone. It was very surprising to me. I thought that would be a barrier. I thought that there would be a learning curve or something. No, it was just as easy to read over the phone as it is looking at somebody's face. I was so surprised.
The learning curve for me when I was doing things on the phone, and I did work for an agency, actually two, but the point being, you have to learn to do it faster, plug in faster, because there's a time limit. These people pay in advance for so many minutes.
That's the hard part. That is just so annoying. But yeah, I got really fast. But I'm not fast. If there's not a time limit, I'm not going to go fast.
I know when I was reading on the phone, I'd ask if they had any particular questions or issues. That's my go-to immediately. Let's get to work, even if it's in front and they're in front of you. And they would tell me, and I'd say, be more specific. Well, I thought you were the psychic. We have a limited amount of time. Ask me your question. You'll get more information. What is your concern? Bum, 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 bum. And then people would end up calling back. Their 5 minutes or whatever. They realized they really had to present it a different way. And one guy told me, he said, nobody's ever told me that. I said, I don't know what to tell you. I want you to get the most. So if you tell me what you need very specifically, or any of us, you're going to get more for your money if that's what you're concerned about. But inevitably, people would call back, if not right back, eventually. To me, reading on the phone, we've got you in our ear. Other than doing, what do they call it? Bedroom conversations. That's about as close as I'm further away when you sit across the table.
Yeah.
Yes. It's, right there. So of course, nowadays we have speakers. that doesn't count. You're still on the phone. Yeah. You had to have been good. Your aura is such that you're just wide open 24/7 unless you intentionally shut down.
Yeah.
You walk in a room and people can feel it. Your aura precedes you unless you don't want that to happen. And not every psychic can say that. Not every medium. Do you consider yourself a medium?
I do.
So you're a psychic medium.
I'm not as experienced. It's when it's needed, when it's necessary. When someone has a need, then then I can definitely go there and do that. And it's
okay,
not morbid. It's exciting. It's just like interacting with a living person. It's not anything that like, it's not like a ghost. It's not like, ooh, it's not like that. It's like, it's not as easy as talking face to face with a living person, but it's the same as there's no like, now I've had interactions with woo woo ghosts before. That's different. One of them was trying to scare me. Oh, and did. And I said, fine, I'm leaving. I'm not going to stay here. If you don't want me here, fine. But, there are a lot of things that the more you serve, the more you go, the more open you are. And that's one of the things that I think, I was taught in my high demand religion, which is Mormonism, was don't say no. When you have a calling, don't say no. Say yes. Always, always say yes when you have a calling. Well, if somebody calls me and they need something, then I'm going to say yes. I'm going to do what I can. And when I first started reading for people that needed to talk to someone on the other side, I would tell them, I would say, I can't guarantee anything, but let's try. Let's see what happens. And then it would happen.
Do they come through you, or do they stay out here someplace? And
they stay out. They have not come through me yet. Although, and that's probably me. That's probably me not giving permission.
It works. It works. And a lot of people don't realize that. And I think this is probably a good time to explain it, because the public, thanks to Hollywood and so forth, thinks of a medium as just someone who comes through you and your face is going to get weird.
Oh, yeah.
Speak a different language, which some do. I do not take that ability away from anybody. I've seen it happen. Jane Roberts was a perfect example with her Seth. Public, if you're not familiar with Jane Roberts, please go research her. She was first of all, she was a writer of children's books, and Seth found her from the other side and literally would be in body with her in the old-fashioned way of mediumship. He even, when she started working with the military, they asked questions and he just cracked her jawbone in her cheek. And they used that picture on one of her books, which was really obnoxious looking. It's painful. And then he put her back together again by the end of the session. He broke her hands. He broke her wrist. And her husband, they had reel-to-reels. That's how long ago it was. He taped all of that stuff. And those are in the books, the Seth books. But if you read the Seth books, please read them in order, because you will see his teachings. It's like going from first grade to college. But and they're not easy readings. But that's what most people think of when you say medium, is somebody going through you. But the other art of mediumship is them telling you, and you're relaying the information. And most of
the time they'll give me a phrase that the person will recognize, so that it's called evidence-based.
Yes.
So the person will recognize that that I'm really talking to that person, that they're really there. Yeah.
I prefer that. I've had one pretty dramatic experience with somebody coming through me. Well, actually more than that, but just for a reading, that was a reading setting. But when I was doing work under not hypnosis, but anyway, through top down, looking for a victim, I had some stuff happen. So I'm not crazy about coming through. But if they want to stand on the other side and tell me, ask any question, answer any question that person wants to answer, I'm fine. I like that you do it that way. It's frankly better on your body, a lot better on your body. When was the first time you realized you could do that? Because that's usually something every psychic wants to be able to do, is speak to dead people. Not everybody can.
So the first time it ever happened was in a dream, and that was when I was a kid, and it was my grandmother's sister who had just passed away, and she wanted to tell my grandmother to stop being so sad. It's okay that she's with her, and that kind of information. And I didn't know it was her sister. I just knew it was a lady, and I knew what she was wearing. And so that was the first time it happened. But then I never really thought of myself as a medium. That's just something that happened with me and my grandmother and her sister. And, but when I realized I could do it was when it was during the pandemic, when a client asked me if I could. And I said, well, let's see. I don't know. Let's see. And then very soon after that, another client asked, and I said, I can't guarantee anything, but let's see. And something very clear came through that was just quite amazing. Everybody in the room gasped, and it was pretty profound. And then after that, I tell people, I think so. Let's see. And it has happened a few times, not often. But when it has happened, it's always really important to the living person.
It's what it's all about, helping them get some peace about whatever it is. Have you studied with anybody in the Austin area other than the tarot class you joined?
Other than you? Yeah. What? Say that again.
No, you already knew the tarot when you joined the class. You just wanted a different perspective on it. So that doesn't count. Who else or what kind of, I know you're a book reader.
My mother, and I self-taught, and my mother did take your class many years ago.
And she also, I couldn't figure out why she was there.
And mostly books, mostly self-taught. Also, here's the thing. When you are open with people and when people do find out, they'll be more open with you, and they give you gifts. They give you gifts of abilities, because what they do is they help you realize that if someone can do it, like they'll say, well, I can do this and this. And then you remember that or realize or remember either I can do that, I have done that, or I can't do that, or I will do that. It's, for instance, you gave me a gift of distance viewing, and I'd heard about it, but I never really thought about it. And you talked about it. You talked about how you did it. And I got a visualization. I got a picture in my head when you told me. The very next day, I got a phone call of somebody who needed me to help them find something or see something. And I got that picture in my head, and then I was there. I don't even know where they were, but I was in their apartment. I don't know where their apartment was. I just know that I was able to see in their apartment. And that was a gift that you gave me. And that doesn't just happen with you, but with anybody. If you're open and you're paying attention and they tell you an ability, oftentimes that's a gift that they're giving you.
Reminding you. Because you already knew how to do it. You just had kind of forgot. Sometimes we forget what we came in with.
Yeah.
Or we had it in a past life. We just haven't used it in a while. Haven't needed it. It didn't become part of our protective senses. So we didn't use it. Didn't have a reason for it. So when somebody gives you that gift, it's a reminder of what you've got. Thank you for telling me that, though. I'm glad you got something you can use.
Absolutely.
I like it when people come into the tarot class that already know how to read the cards, but they don't know or listen to the cards. I really wish I could train myself to say listen, because that's really what it is. But I like it because I know they're going to walk away with the history of the symbols, which I've had people look at a card and say, I never saw that on there. I never noticed that on there.
Yeah.
And it means so much. It means so much to the meaning of, I tell people, you can't change the meaning of the cards. They're set. The face value will not change. How you listen to it and what combinations your card presents for you, that's the difference. But the value never changes. Never. It's always meant for that person to have. So even if you just explain the value of the cards and you've got nothing psychic, you're still giving much, much, much to the value to your client.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And when you know the meaning of the colors and the numbers and the houses, and which is usually why people like you or people who have been reading for years and years and years, and no matter how much a reading of books they've done, they didn't catch da 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 da. And if I can help them remember that, pull it out, then that's worth them being in class because their clients are going to benefit.
It's like
so
the
much.
icing on the cake. It's what makes it, you know, having
people. I love people that can already read the cards because I know we're going to have great exchanges, educational exchanges amongst the class. And I just sit back sometimes and just listen. And it's just awesome when I hear the class members just going at it. But what do you do about all I have to do is just throw a subject out there and it's just fun. And I learn. Everybody you read for, everybody I don't like the word counsel, and technically, legally, we're not supposed to use the word counsel here in the state of Texas, but because we're not licensed. But
I tell people, I'm not your therapist. If you need a therapist, go see a therapist.
Right. But I had one guy tell me years ago, he said, y'all are the most underpaid therapist out there.
Yeah.
And he was in the medical field.
Yeah.
And I just stood back and thought, well, that's an interesting observation. I'd really never thought of it that way. Yeah. Mentoring, teaching, are you doing either or both?
Right this second? Yes, I am. I don't have I've taken a break it was going to be a month. I might take a month and a half. But what I'm doing is, I have a space in Elgin, Texas, in my cousin's shop, the Painted Raven. And
I love that shop.
It's a wonderful shop. And
I love it.
And I get to use that space. And what I've been doing, it's called Tarot Talk. We sit at a table, whether you have a little experience or no experience, or you have a lot of experience. I would like as many people that want to come sit down at that table and we teach each other and learn from each other. I'm what would you call it? I don't want to be like the head teacher or anything like that. It's really more of a conversation. And it's just a wonderful space to do that in. So I'm really excited about it. When I get back to it, I'm going to advertise and really get it going because again, that's building community. And that is, I don't even know how to say it. It's like building community. That's what will save the world. That's how you save the earth. That's how you save, that's how you make politics better. That's how community is.
Possible? Is that possible? Yes, I'm a cynic when it comes to politics.
We don't want it to be easy. Politics are there so that we can grow. So that we can
learn how to communicate without killing each other.
And learn how to be patient. And learn how to love each other outside of belief systems. It's a belief system.
It is. I believe. So you're gonna be talking tarot. I like that. I like that title, Talking Tarot.
Yes. In fact, that's what I call it, Tarot Talk.
Tarot Talk. Tarot Talk. I like that. Public, just in case. She and I both. She lives in Manor, Manor, which is up the road about 19 miles, not even that. And I live in Elgin. Both of those little cities, except Manor, is way bigger than Elgin. But anybody that goes from Austin to Houston, typically you go down I-10, which is another part of Houston, or they're parallel, or 290. So most of the people coming down 290, if they don't live here, they're on their way to Houston and beyond. When they drive through Manor, drive through Elgin, they assume that, especially Elgin, but that's not anywhere near the community of you're seeing a commercial slide of both Manor and Elgin. Elgin is very small. The Painted Raven is on the square of Elgin, Texas, in the historical part of Elgin, Texas. She drives all that way so she can be there. It's a cool shop. It's a mix of metaphysical stuff and cloth, and she's serious about creativity. What kind of classes has she had in there so far? Quilting?
She's had Yes, and stained glass, not stained glass, mosaic, hat decoration. Um, I think she had, beginning sewing classes, anything you can think of. I mean, anybody that comes in and says, I can do this, she says she want to teach a class. Yeah. So all kinds of stuff. Oh, even, self-defense. Um,
Did her husband teach that one?
And he's been in security.
You definitely want Troy to protect you.
Absolutely.
Nightmare of a man. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
With a big, gentle heart. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, but the store itself is long and narrow with a great back porch. They've created a great back porch, which is, I think of it as a screened-in porch, but it's really not. But it's deep. So you could sit out when it was raining and not get rained on unless it was just heading right at you. But I love the fact that it's downtown Elgin, which pulls people into downtown Elgin. So they'll see what it really is.
It's beautiful. And it's really, there's more than one art museum in the town. The library is a beautiful town, and it's very artsy. I do believe that it's becoming the art district of Austin.
You know, I've been here. I just signed another lease, and I'm going into the 4th year. And when I first moved out here, there were 3 or 4, I don't think even that many, lights. You got off the toll road and you were in Manor, and there was a light, and then there was another light. Okay. And another, okay, 4. And now they're like 3 more. And when I first moved out here, if I was stopped at a light, I might have to go through 2 rotations, even at what they call their 5 o'clock traffic.
Yeah.
which now has a sarcastic tone to it when I say that. Oh my God, the traffic in Manor is just, I add 30 minutes. I don't care what time I have to be in Austin. If I have to go through downtown at 7 or 7:30, which is really 8 o'clock traffic for Manor, I add 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Same thing coming home. I add 30 minutes if I'm coming back from Austin. I didn't have to do that when I first moved out here. It's just when Tesla opened on the toll road.
Yeah, that's right.
That brought in hundreds of families. Hundreds. And he's getting ready to build 2 more buildings. The plan was 3 originally, and they're all the same size, and they're enormous. Enormous. And now there are plans for 2 more. And then there's another, I can't remember, it's another tech planet, another tech plant that's going to be out in that area on the way to the airport. That's going to bring in all kinds of people. So I'm not surprised, but give it another 5 or 6 years and Elgin and Manor signs will be like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, you know, H-E-B had to know, which is a grocery store for those of you that are not familiar with Texas. It's a nice store. They do a lot of charity work. I'll pay a couple of cents more for something because I know that they're gonna go take care of flood victims and that sort of thing. But H-E-B had to know that was coming, because to build the kind of store that they're building, that had to be years in the planning.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, that had to be on the books. So there's more people coming even than what we are aware of now to pay for and to support an H-E-B of that size, shopping center of that size. Yeah, we've gotten off track here, but for her to say it is related, because the kind of people that are coming out here, and I don't like the word kind, the demographic of the people that are coming out here are going to want these services, the kind of shop that Stephanie owns. Our services. We've got a yoga studio. We've got a massage therapy. Is the massage therapy and yoga shop the same on the square next to Lucy's?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay. Maybe I'm thinking
here's a studio, a tattoo shop.
Where's the tattoo shop? They snuck in on me.
I think it's the same as the piercing studio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Lucy's is going to have to add tables. That's all there is to it. I'm joking about Lucy's because when you walk into this little restaurant, it has been here forever. It's family owned, and you feel like you're walking into somebody's dining room. Nothing matches. Sometimes they have cake and pie. Sometimes they don't. Anyway, it's very much a cool little menu. But our services, when I moved out here, there were no psychics living out here 3 years ago that I knew of.
Right.
None that I knew of. Now, they may have been afraid to come out, but I kept watching that little store. I want to call it the yoga store. It may not be yogi, but the massage place. I kept waiting for them to open. I was going to talk to them about maybe doing readings there, and all of a sudden, they were never open. And I could tell they were open. And then when I went in there, it didn't feel right. So I didn't even say anything to anybody. But Michael and Megan have both mentioned at the different events that psychics would be welcome. But in fact, I called about one of them and she never called me back. So I don't know. Well, hi, Mama. My cat Mama Girl is wondering why I'm in here. Her gentle little paw was,
Aw.
I know, baby. No, you can't get in my lap. It's growing out here to the point that the demographic is going to be widely spread in terms of interest, crafts. I think Stephanie opened that store at the perfect time. She may have to expand it. She just can't knock out a wall because that building is so cool.
I know.
It's just so cool. It would break my heart if she knocked out a wall. But anyway, it's, I think her timing was perfect with that. And we're getting more restaurants coming out this way. When I moved here, there was Lucy's that got a lot of Mexican food, the Italian place, which is really good on Main Street. We have a street called Main Street. Which I love. Oh yeah. And we've got the first and the second and the third and the fifth. And how many towns do that these days? And it's a neat place. I think we were both sent here. I just haven't gotten out there I haven't had the time to get out there and push it, to do that. And with people like Stephanie that are willing to put on a small show because she has a small, narrow shop. She does, she uses the space that she has. Nature's Treasures even came out there with a small table. I was surprised.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah. He, one person brought all of the stuff. He had I would think of it as an extended table. So for Nature's Treasures to have faith in the public walking through, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. People that are listening, if you don't know what Nature's Treasures is, it's a giant crystal shop, basically, with big outdoor area. They call it the rock garden, but they can have things there's a 6-ton crystal amethyst cut in half as you walk in the store to the left. That location is going to close pretty soon because Austin, Texas is expanding I-35 and they're widening everything. So I noticed the other day that one of my favorite Shell stations are being closed. It's already closed on 38th and a half Street, which means the bank that I used to go to all the time is also little bank's going to close. I used to live within walking distance of Nature's Treasures. So, but I noticed that there's also a crystal shop somewhere in this area. And now I can't think of the name of it, or I would give them a plug, but I can't think of the name of it. But I know there's one in Bastrop, but it seems like there's one with an Elgin address. So, or Manor address. So I want to go find that one.
Because I'm excited. I'm going to go.
Yeah. Okay. We'll go together. We'll go play. When I'm putting these conversations together, I'm realizing that I can't do 2 or 3 of them 5 days a week. I have to take a break.
Oh.
I have to have time to do things like clean house, go to the grocery store, also continue to make phone calls to make the appointments. Might even do some readings, maybe teach a class or two. Yeah. So I'm having to get a rhythm about all of this right now. But which reminds me, I don't know, we're aiming for launch in October around a new moon or a full moon. I don't know when you will be scheduled. You will be announced. Did you already send me stuff for bio?
No, but I will.
Yes, please. And it doesn't have to be fancy, but whatever you want us to know, Adam or myself will pull out pieces. And by that time, after the launch date, if you're going to be teaching classes, shows or fairs that you might be at, if you've got anything,
dates. Yeah,
dates for that. Make sure you include your landing pages, your media communication. If you have a YouTube or whatever those things are called these days. Can you tell I'm not data oriented? Include that information so the public will know how to reach you. Phone numbers, that sort of thing. I know she'll be scheduling some stuff there at the shop probably through the fall. I know she will. I don't remember what the dates are, the dates in October of new moon, full moon, but we will be hitting one of those for the launch. I'm trying to anyway. So anything like that. Plus, I'm telling everybody that I'm creating a library under your name, things that you refer, like books that were important to you, things that you listened to.
Yeah, I have some important books that are very important. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't care if somebody else has used them on their list or not, if they were important to you, because everybody's different.
Yeah.
I
enjoy reading other people's important books. When, one of the questions I like to ask people that I find very interesting is like, is there a book that really meant a lot to you in your life, and what book is that? And I'll read it because that's how I have found the books that are the most important to me.
I get it. I'm the same way. And I find it fascinating that one book in particular, it's The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall. It has popped up 6 or 7 times, and every one of those people are so different from each other. The tools that they use. Yeah. But I have it sitting on my desk. I've had it for years. I have what was called the Diamond Edition, which meant it was 50 years old when it was published. And if you can find it in a hardback, it's going to be really expensive because that's a collector's item. If it's less than 50 years old, that's a collector's item, and they're very expensive. I've only run across maybe 2 on some of the pages, but that book and a couple of others that were more kind of like philosophy books. One was it was published by the Rosicrucian organization. It's kind of hard to find too. With that in mind, public and Monica, if you're looking for something out of the ordinary, public domain website. Public domain. People have lifted books off of that site and put their name on it. Now that's illegal. Before a certain time, those books were not protected. That information was not protected. And you can still take quotes and that sort of thing, but now you have to say the person's name, the book's name. You can take the whole book as long as you do a little bit of revision or addition to it, but just honor. You have to honor. But they have everything. If as a taxpayer, we paid for the military planes, you can find the, what do you call it? The schematics. I mean, you can find all kinds of stuff. So you can find books and cards and things like that are no longer published. If you want to go down a rabbit hole, oh my God, you can spend hours going down the rabbit holes of public domain. And another thing you have to be careful about is the language used. The language back in the 1800s is not the same language now. And I use the example of barber and beauty shop. So many women had their hair cut by men under the supervision of a man standing there, of course, back in the old days. We didn't have beauty shops. Usually women would cut other women's hair, but if they were doing something different, or if a woman wasn't around, they would go to a barber shop with a male escort, and they had one chair in particular that they would use just for women. So sometimes we look for something beauty shop, we have to look for barbers. So you have to figure out what terms were used for what. That's kind of tricky. But the public domain has sites to help you with that too. So if there is anything out there that you want to know more about and you can't find it in the library, which bigger libraries you can sometimes. I loved it when you worked at Half Price Books because they had the old book room where you had to wear gloves and you couldn't take that book out of the room, but you could sit there and read it and handle it very carefully under watchful eyes. I loved that. Not every bookstore does that.
I know. Well, I love that too. Do you know I got to read in that room too? I got to do tarot readings in that room for one summer. They let me do it. It was really nice.
Well, you would be the perfect person since you know that business so well and you're such a book lover.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah. What a perfect job for you. But it's, I go on public domain for tarot stuff, especially getting ready for classes, but, or to pull things out to share with the class and sometimes other subjects as well. But there's so many books that are no longer published that you can still plan. And during the pandemic, they fixed it where you could download some of the pages. You were, I don't think, allowed to download the whole book. I don't know. I could be wrong on that. And they may have changed that. But that was during the public domain. During the pandemic, that was when museums like the Louvre they'd let you go on tours. And public domain did some of that too. They used their creativity. So public, I go into all of this because what you need is out there. Yeah. And my gift to you are the shoulders like hers that people are standing on and generations that will stand on hers. But I want to be able to provide access to reference material that some people have no clue. Besides, if they can't find it at Barnes and Noble, they don't know where else to go. Or if they run across it, okay, fine. But if they don't know the people in our community, they don't even know who to call to ask. And so many towns don't have metaphysical bookstores yet. Yeah. They'll have, like Book People, they'll have one room. And thank God for Book People. I so appreciate him, Philip, creating that that bookstore so many years ago. I knew it when it was a 3-story house next to an elementary school. It's now belongs to other organizations that own Book People, and it's a huge business. So, but it started as a little tiny place that I didn't even take my purse in because it was, the aisles were narrow. He used every inch he could for inventory, trust me. But we did readings there.
So important. Books and conversations. I think one of the things that, because we've known each other and because we're in the community, I think sometimes, I don't know that we forget, but sometimes we don't realize that some people don't even have a language for the things that are going on around them and happening to them. For instance, I had a friend that called me and she said, her dear brother had passed and she had had a visitation and everybody around her, meaning that he came to see her and he talked with her. He sat on the bed indented next to her as he sat there. He was much younger than he was when he passed. And she had a conversation with him and everybody around her was telling her that she was crazy. And she called me and I said, that's called a visitation. And she just had such relief that she wasn't alone, that there was a word for this, that it was real because she knew it was real. She was like, I know he was there, but nobody believes me. And I said, I believe you. And that's what, these books and public domain going in the past, but even now it's like there are people that just need, we don't even have a language. They don't even have, there's a language, but they don't know it. They don't know the words, and it's just so important that we continue to serve our communities in the best way we can, because just just one little thing like that can bring such peace to someone.
It's right. You're right about the language. I have people call and say, I think I need what you call as a reading. Or somebody said, so-and-so, do you do? And if I don't do it, I send them to somebody that does. I don't believe in attempting to do something I know darn good and well I can't do to the level they need it done to.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not an astrologer. I'm not a palmist. I'm not a numerologist. Not my bailiwick. I know enough about those subjects as far as tarot is concerned. And then psychic development. I don't teach psychic development classes anymore. So I'll send at least a person to 3 people, and I'll say, let them interview you. See if you're a match. You interview them. Talk about what you need and go from there. And while you're at it, here's a couple of books or 2 that you might find interesting. I try it. Whether they use it or not, I don't know. Sometimes they'll call and say, yep, we're going to fit. I'm going to take so-and-so's class, da-da-da-da-da. Okay. That's what we do to help people find peace of mind. But what Monica is saying is so important, because she's right. A lot of these people don't have a clue about what they're going through. And sometimes it's just a visitation. It may or may not ever happen again, but it happened. Other times I'm having all kinds of these, I'm seeing things, I'm hearing things, I'm smelling things. I see people running on the side of my bed. I feel like I've levitated. Am I going crazy? No, you're just opening up psychically. What does that mean? We need to sit down and talk. And then if I'm not in, I may give them your phone number. Go talk to Monica. So it's, we've got to be here for people. And yes, there are times when my first question is, are you an addict or a recovering addict? And then we'll talk about that. No judgment there, just trying to find out information. Are you under someone's care now? Yes, no. Then we go from there. We've all had therapists give our names out to people. Nothing wrong with you, but you just need to talk to so-and-so. So nice to have a doctor on our side, right? Occasionally. But what we're doing and what you have so graciously participated in, and I know we'll have other talks, is you're being brave about, you're out there doing the work, and you will become internationally known, but you're taking a chance. You're taking a chance that people will accept who you are and what you do and why you do it. Not everybody's going to have the same why, W-H-Y. They're not. And you've probably heard this. I had a head injury. I fell off a ladder. I've got trauma in my life. And yeah. And then all of a sudden, my lights just started flickering. Okay, Spirit. Hi. So it's, what you're participating in is really, really important. And I appreciate you being so open. That's another thing. Not every psychic wants to talk about how or why they got started. And I think that's important, because it could be shared with people who are going through exactly the same thing. And you didn't hesitate to say, well, I was 9 years old. And part of that is not everybody believes a kid.
Right.
You were lucky to have a mom that did. And I talk to moms and dads that say, I've got a weird kid.
Mm-hmm.
They tell me about their past lives. Kids are so open until we put them in school. And then they have to a regime is created for them to follow. And they lose it unless they go home to parents or grandparents that are really open. And it's a communication. But what you did today, what you're doing, is really, really important. And I can't thank you enough. Don't forget the book.
Yeah.
And what do you hope for yourself, for your future? What do you want to be? I'm not going to say legacy, but what do you want to be respected for, appreciated for, as you move forward in your career? Because I don't see you slowing down. I
want to be known for someone who loves and cares for my community and the people around me, and that I want that. That's it. I'm never going to do it for the money. I'm never going to do it for any other reason, and except that I feel like it's important that I'm serving. And it's now it's an easier way for me to serve, because of the people that have come before me, and because of where I am, being so close to Austin, Texas. But that's it. It's really important to me. Communication, it is about, one of the things I did when the kids, I don't know why this is coming up now, but it must be on topic because, when the kids were teenagers, I have 4 daughters. When it was hard to talk about something, we could talk about it using the tarot. We could talk about it without them having to say what it is, because they don't want to have to say. They don't want to, being able to communicate different ways and share in each other's joys and each other's experiences as a whole community, I do really find healing for everyone. And that's what I want. I think that a family unit is a community in and of itself. And if a family can talk about things, that's healing. And it's the same for a community. And that's what I want to do. I want to bring community together. I want to bring people together. I want people to find comfort in one another and not be afraid of one another. I know that most people are good. And
Find safety.
Yeah.
He said, the rest of this year is going to be difficult for a lot of people, not just in America, and not just because of the politics, but because of the wars that are basically not going to slow down. Some of it, I think, is a distraction so that we as people won't notice what else is going on someplace else. It's kind of like sneaking in the back door. But I do know that the rest of the year is going to be difficult for a lot of people. Not everybody, but a lot of people. A lot of changes going on. And I said a while ago, I'm not an astrologer, and I'm not, but my little birdie friends have let me know that it's kind of written in the stars. We have to find a way as individuals to protect ourselves or go through the experiences we signed up for before we came back. And this time, yes, I believe in past lives, and I believe in the commitment we make to the life we choose to come back to and the lessons we need to learn and teach. And this is going to be a strong year. And it's the intergalactic beings started coming in, which has never happened before, about 5 or 6 years ago. I've talked about this several times with other conversations. We're going to see different skin colors, and people think, well, they're just a mix. Okay, maybe it is, but they're I don't know how it's going to happen, but different blood types, different blood colors, different eye colors. It's different hair colors. And of course, when you look at people, you're going to say, well, now that's a neat heritage thing. It's not. And they've been here long enough that now they're getting old enough to go to kindergarten and first grade, and they're coming up. But their intellect is just enormous. The first graders are going to be doing 5th grade work, and it's going to become quite the standard. But they're here to save planet Earth. And somebody asked me not long ago, does that mean we're going to have a bunch of hippies? I said, yeah, kind of. Kind of. Because they're just not going to let love get away. They're just not. And we, as our community, we have to be open to them, because this is standard for them.
Yeah.
They're the ones who see through walls every day. And the word love means responsibility to them. And if you love somebody and you mean it, then you take responsibility for your words and your actions.
Love is a verb.
Love is a verb. And unfortunately, we have a lot of communities that think guns and killing people is the way to go. And I'm thinking of the wars and the imagery that I saw this morning on television, and I'm going, when is this crap going to stop? When is it just going to stop? And you can slow down one generation, but you can't change the minds of some of the elders, and the young ones have seen it, and now they think that's the only way to go. And that's scary. So this new intergalactic, interplanetary group that's coming in, they're ready to save our world. For some reason, we're where we are. If something happens to us and we explode, then the other planets are going to be affected. And I think that came up with you because of your lineage and the children that will carry your blood and mix with your blood. And that's going to be really, really important to the future. You just happen to be one of those people. And families that have rare blood types and high O's are going to be matched, I think, with these blood types. So all I can say is hold on to your hat, girl. You've got a lot to do. And as reversed as you may, as introverted as you may think you are, nah.
I know, that's what I push. I really do. I have to put on my cloak.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I do. I push myself. Yeah, I push. And
well,
all my family, my whole family's extroverts, so I know how to do it. It's just, I have to make myself. I have to really make myself. But I really believe that it's important that I commune.
Yeah. And there are different ways for us in the community to have an effect on the world, or even Texas or whatever. It doesn't have to be the whole world. You start at home and then you widen out with improvements. But you're going to be one of these people that write books, and maybe your time spending with books, that was a rub off for yourself, and do lectures and do teachings and do readings. But the older you get, the more you will be in the business of metaphysics, but still do the readings when you want to. That's the difference. So you've got a long career ahead of you, and your shoulders will get stronger, and people will find that they can trust what you have to teach and what you have to share. So that's another reason why I wanted you with Conversation of the Ancients, because eventually you'll be moved over to the Ancients. And that's just the way it goes. So when you start writing those books, which I think you've already written two in your head, you just come back and say, okay, I have one that I want the world to know about now. Can we talk about it? Or two, or here's the schedule of lectures for the next 6 months, so put it on your media, and we'll certainly share it on this place. So what else do you want the world to know about you? Because this will be looked at, I know, internationally, probably take about 1.5 years, but this podcast will get out there. So,
well, one of the things I tell my brand new clients when somebody, I ask them first, have you had a reading before? And whether they have or not, it doesn't change what I say next, because then I tell them how I feel, what I'm doing. And I say, so I use the cards as a tool. And there have been times in my life, I've been reading cards for a lot of years, and I've had a lot of different beliefs, and my beliefs have changed over the years. And there was a time when I was reading as agnostic, but I was reading the cards, and I considered it to be a good meditation, a Jungian meditation, even in some instances. And, but what I do now is I connect with the person and we use the cards. But one of the things I do is I ask my spirit guides to help me to communicate with them, and my spirit guides communicate with their spirit guides. And so we have this whole big group when we're doing a reading, this whole support system around us when we do a reading. And I tell them, you don't have to believe that if you don't want to, but that's what I feel like we're doing. So, it's just all based in love, and love is connection. Love is serving. Love is communication and community. And love is very much an action word. And I do really believe that love is always the answer to everything, every problem, everything. If we can find, that connection, if you can find that. And it doesn't have to be a human connection, because, man, I talk to trees, animals, a blade of grass. There are whole networks of fungus that connects all the trees in the world. When you talk to one tree, you're talking to all the trees. You're talking to the entire earth when you talk to a tree.
You even saw a tree with faces on it.
Yes. And I have to do, you might not feel it at first. You might think it's ridiculous, but take your shoes off. Go put your feet on the roots of a tree and put your arms around that tree and hold that tree in your arms. Just do it. You may feel silly. There may be people walking by. Maybe you don't have a yard where you can do it privately. Do it anyway. Do it. Just do it. That's what I would like to say. Just hug a tree for real. Just try it. Just see what happens.
I'm a big tree hugger. I love it. Yeah. When I was teaching elementary school, the treat, if everybody had been good. Now, this was first graders to sixth grade, but this was when I was doing first and second grade. If everybody had been good, I had permission from my principal. We would take chairs or blankets or both under a big oak tree in the afternoon when the weather permitted and it was pleasant enough. And we would have, the students would read to us. There were 3 teachers, 2 classes would get together, and they had to read to us. I mean, it was for an hour, but that was our library time. Sometimes the librarian would come up, and the kids got the biggest kick out of sitting on the ground or in a chair or on a blanket and reading, that you could tell they just kind of got lost in the energy of the tree. And when it was time for them to quit reading their paragraph, they'd be, no, I want to read some more. And kids became a little less shy in that environment. And we would talk about the trees, and the oak tree was the favorite one, but there were a couple of pine trees, and over time, we teachers would let them pick which one they wanted to sit under. And inevitably, it was the one who had roots above ground. They wanted to sit on the roots or put their toes on the roots. I get it.
Yeah.
Trees are magical. Mother Earth is magical. Well, we have beings that oversee the trees, that are in the trees. And all of a sudden, I can't remember what their right names are. You may remember.
Naiads and dryads. Dryads are trees and naiads are river. I don't remember.
Those. Some people call them gods.
Ents.
One time.
That's what they call in the Lord of the Rings. They're Ents. E-N-T-S.
E-N-T-S. Was it the Lord of the Rings where the trees just decided to walk with them? I loved that scene.
Yes.
Whatever movie that was from, I loved it. Here come the trees. Okay. And get out of the way. Yeah. I'm just so glad that you're doing what you're doing and contributing to the community the way you are. I was not at all surprised when I learned that you were doing this, and just didn't know why I didn't know sooner. I just thought it just makes perfect sense.
You did know sooner. You told me.
I did know, but I didn't know you were doing it. I didn't know that you had hung a shingle, so to speak.
Okay.
I knew you did it. It was just a matter of, I didn't know you were flipping the cards for people.
They told me I was going to hang a shingle, and I said, yeah, right, inside. I didn't say it out loud. I was just like, okay.
Crazy woman. The woman's crazy. It's okay. That's
so
all
now
right.
when you tell me these other things, I'm like, okay, I'll put that on the shelf, and I'll just keep going. We'll see what happens.
You know, sometimes we get swept up in a part of our career that we never saw coming. It just happens. It just happens. And you are already being swept up. You're already solid, but you're now being put in situations that you're learning from for the next situation. And about every 3 to 5 years, you're going to look back and go, oh, that's what that was all about. That's why I'm here. Some people plan. I have a really good friend that sits down every 10 years and does a 10-year plan. He breaks it up into 5, but it's a 10-year plan. 20s into the 30s, and he's been very absolute, and he's accomplished almost everything on his list. he feels bad from year to year if he doesn't get done that year, but he keeps it on the list, keeps it going, because we're not on planet Earth. Other people will not get in our way, but situations will come up where we have to take a break from intent and take care of something else. And that's really, we all do it, but you're on track. You're exactly where you need to be. Every 3 to 5 years, you're going to look back and go, oh, that's why that silliness was in my life, or wow, that was a bigger deal than I thought it was. You know, those are the ones that I'm always excited about. I go, holy crap, that's what that meant. Okay. I'm proud of what you're doing. You're so firm and yet so strong, and yet you're not mean and boisterous and flippant. You're just working your way, doing your thing, learning from your people. You said that casually a while ago, and I really want people to hear it. I believe, and she believes, that everybody we interact with, client or otherwise, we are learning from them. They're giving us a strength to look at. They remind us of what we know and what we don't know. And I really thank my clients for that trust. And you're doing the same thing. So even though it might be a difficult reading, we want to sit back in the chair and go, holy crap. It's what was needed for us as well as them. Yeah. And you do it so well. You make it look easy. So people standing on her shoulders, it's not all that easy. It's not all that easy when it happens. What else do you want to share with us?
Let's see. You know, I did write some notes because you did say some things but I think we've talked about.
I'll look at my notes while you're looking at yours.
You know, I tell you what, you know, you talked about, you'll look 3 to 5 years and you'll say, oh, that's why that was going on. You know, for, several years I studied midwifery, and I, became a direct entry midwife in the state of Texas. And I had these wonderful women that precepted me. It's a apprentice and preceptor situation. And, my midwife, Mickey Fredericks, my friend Jackie Griggs, and Camellia May, three of the most, and my mother-in-law, who was a nurse, Joy Crow, and my mother and you, the most amazing, intelligent women that I've ever known, really guide me. And learning midwifery, and I stepped out. I learned for several years, and then I did it for a year. And then I was like, why, you know, I quit, and I didn't understand why I was quitting, because it's like, this is, you know, that's a call. It's a calling.
Yeah.
It's not a job, it's a calling. And then I did it, and then I quit, and I was really disappointed with myself for so many years. Why am I not doing that? I was really good at it. I mean, I really and a lot of it was because of my psychic abilities that I was so good at it, because I could tell what the baby was doing. I could tell what the mom was doing. I could tell what the dad was doing. But I learned, and I'm learning now, that even that was a part of this calling. It was like a class that you take for the bigger picture, for the doctorate.
I agree.
There was nothing minor about it. And I didn't quit. I quit, but I'm still going. You can't ever take the midwife. If somebody needs help birthing a baby, hey, I'm there, but that's not, my calling is bigger than that. Even as big as that calling is, my calling is, that was a piece of my education. Everything that I've ever learned in my life. And I've been a jack of all trades. I even worked for an all woman construction company. I got called to catch a snake a couple of times. So even that, I mean, I'm just so grateful and excited to be here. That's what I have to say. My life has been so full, and I have such a promise of such a more fullness ahead. And I do see the connection with each and everything that I've been through in my life. The bad, the good, and the ugly has come to this culmination and just continues on. And I just really hope that people can find my life hasn't been easy at all by any means. I've struggled a lot, but I wouldn't do anything any differently. So if anybody is struggling, please have hope. If you don't have hope in your own heart, find hope with somebody else. Find somebody else to have hope for you until you can find your own hope. It's hard. This life is hard. Nobody ever said it was going to be easy.
That was a beautiful way to say that. If you can't have hope, be with somebody find somebody that can have hope for you. Folks, think about that. Pull that into your being. Put that on a shelf in case you need to use it. Can't thank you enough, sweetheart. Thank you so much for your time today.
I love you. Thank you. Happy birthday.
You're welcome. Oh, thank you. She is my one and only today, and I thought, well, now this is a gift. I get to spend my one and only conversation today with Olivia Monica. How cool is that?
Thank you.
So
thank you, Lily.
Thank you. Mwah. Take care of yourself, hon. We'll say goodnight. Goodbye.
Thank you for tuning into The Conversations with the Ancients, where we take you on a journey where you'll hear voices of metaphysicians from the past, as well as today's spirit mediums, healers, and others who show you a side of the paranormal you've never seen before. Remember to visit our website at conversationswiththeancients.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on Conversations with the Ancients.